From onboarding new hires to running payroll to managing insurance and employee benefits, human resources can get really overwhelming really quickly. As a busy business owner, we know you don't have time to sort through it all.
That's where we come in. As the team behind Core Business Resources, a niche HR consulting firm, we have over 50 years of combined experience with helping business owners and managers navigate all things HR.
And don't worry, our podcast will be way more fun than reading an HR handbook.
Which you need, by the way.
On this podcast, we'll answer questions about all things HR, like, is my business too small to offer insurance to my team?
Or is it time to bring my staff back into the office?
Or do I really have to worry about diversity?
I'm Aaliyah, the CEO and founder of Core Business Resources, or CBR HR.
I'm Megan, lead HR consultant for CBR.
And I'm Liz, CBR's HR and Insurance and Benefits Specialist.
And together, we're your human resource.
So today we're going to be talking about a very important topic we haven't talked about this season, and that's payroll.
Oh boy, it's your favorite.
It is my favorite. It is my favorite. Payroll's always been my favorite thing to do when I would have it to do each day. And it took me a long time to figure out why that was. Like, why would I like something that's so, detail oriented and takes a long time? But I eventually realized that I loved it because it really is it's where the HR rubber meets the road. It's the confluence of all the SOPs we write. It's the confluence of all the handbooks of good management, of bad management, of good organization and bad organization. And essentially, it's where the HR rubber meets the road, is what I think. Now, if you're at an organization where you're not managing things so well, this road that I'm talking about could actually be the highway to hell.
Oh boy.
Are we familiar? Yes? Okay. We have to have a little bit of rock.
Okay, hold on. Now, who sings Highway to Hell?
AC/DC.
Oh, okay. Great logo. Love the AC/DC logo.
Yes.
Didn't know the song. So see, I'm learning something new today.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about if you have a poorly managed payroll, how it could really be the highway to hell.
Okay.
But before we get into that, we're going to do a little bit of payroll trivia.
Okay.
Yeah, I bet you never thought you'd pay payroll trivia.
Let's do it.
It's real simple. I'm just going to ask you a question. You're going to give me whatever answer you think is the answer, and then I'll tell you the correct answer.
Okay.
So where did the original word payroll come from?
Payroll.
Like, what do you think it meant originally?
I'm wondering if there was some sort of like a roll of money that was originally part of...
Pesos?
No, I wasn't going there. But was the like maybe the money that you had to pay to your team and some kind of roll? Maybe.
Oh, okay.
That's my guess.
That's a great guess.
That's my guess.
It actually refers to a script or like a roll of paper that would have had all of the employees' names on it and what wages they were due. And so originally it was a scroll or a roll of paper, essentially.
Yeah. Thank goodness we've evolved from that.
We have evolved a little bit. Yes. We do some writing, but not that much.
No.
All right. What company has the highest number of employees on their payroll in the United States?
What company?
I'm
going to guess Walmart.
You are correct. It is Walmart.
I was going to say U.S. government.
Oh, that would have been
a good one.
Yeah.
That one, I guess a private employer was what I have information on. But yes, it's Walmart actually.
Good old Walmart.
Who is the largest payroll provider? So think company that does payroll.
ADP.
It has to be.
It is definitely ADP.
Right.
Sure is. Then you guys immediately knew that answer.
Yep.
And then number 4, what is the most common payroll schedule in the United States?
I think it's biweekly.
It is biweekly. Yes. So every other week is the most common.
Yeah.
All right. Well, great job on your payroll trivia that you didn't know.
So much. Well, it's just fun because I think you're right. We'd write all these policies and we do all this work in reference to all these protocols. But when it comes down to payroll, based on those policies, as far as how well that company, if they have policies and if they're following them, it all shows up in payroll for sure.
Yeah, it is really where you get to see those things in action that you work on all the time, right?
I think most business owners understand the importance of payroll, but often see it as a task, basically to get the employees paid.
Absolutely.
Some might even consider it strictly an accounting matter, making sure of the cash flow and ensure that there's enough funds to cover the payroll. And some of our clients also have accountants do that payroll.
It's true.
With smaller organizations, they usually have a manager that's designated as the person that's doing their payroll.
Mhm.
And then in micro organizations, which I'm sure we have some listeners out there where the owner is doing payroll. So you're doing everything else for your business and you're doing the payroll. And we know as an owner of a business, you have so much going on in your brain. So let's talk about who you should have doing your payroll.
That's right. Should it be the CEO? I am not sure about
I'm not
that
sure.
one.
So the best person that we find really to do payroll is someone who knows the handbook policies front and back.
Right.
They need to know them.
Well, let's hope they have a handbook. Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Number one, you must have a handbook.
There you go.
Number two,
There
you
you
must
go.
know what they are. Someone who knows the company benefit structure. So what benefits do you offer?
Mhm.
How much does the company pay? How does the company collect those benefits
Mhm.
from the employee?
Right.
And then number three, it's a sort of all-encompassing requirement, but you need someone who is well organized,
For
someone who can document and track things, and that's pay raises, bonuses, PTO, sick leave, maternity leave. Minimally, you need to know someone who just know when payroll is due, right?
Yes.
You can't process it whenever you want.
No.
It's a very set schedule.
Yep.
You have to know when it's due, when are the holidays, all those sorts of things.
So those are the operational implications, but I guess there's also the financial
Sure.
implications of
Mhm.
payroll. And I think that, there's probably two that really pop up in my mind. Number one, you don't want to overpay an employee for obvious reasons, but you also don't want to underpay
Yep.
an employee
Yeah.
for obvious
Yeah.
reasons. I mean, whatever that original employment agreement is with your employee, you got to follow it.
Yeah.
So whatever the payroll is, that schedule, whatever you've told your employee that you're going to do as an owner, as a manager, you have to do it. I think the second really important financial implication of payroll is also making sure that you don't make errors, that you actually accurately process it. Kind of going back to your point, Megan, is, if payroll is not accurately processed, you're going to spend a lot of time fixing that.
Mhm.
There's big cost that's associated to that as well. So those are the two big financial implications of processing payroll well or not processing it well.
Yeah. And so for our business owners out there, we're like, well, why does this matter to me?
Mhm.
Well, it costs money when this is not done
That's-
correctly
that's exactly
in a
right.
lot of different ways. Another big area that we see that's really usually not being managed very well, and there can be a lot of errors, is vacation and sick time.
Yeah.
Seems really easy, right?
Mhm.
If you're an employer out there in a state like California who has state mandated sick time, and currently in California for most of the state, you have to offer at least 40 hours of paid sick time.
I'm sorry, 4D.
5 days.
I always have to
Yeah.
emphasize that.
5
because I-
days.
Increased from 24.
Yeah.
Yes,
From
it did
Yeah.
at the beginning of this year, but
Yeah, it's
5 days of
incredible.
sick time.
Mhm.
But in that law, there is a provision that allows an employer to make a new employee wait 90 days to,
Mhm.
and you get to use that benefit.
Yeah.
But if the person processing your payroll doesn't know that your company has that policy to
Yeah.
wait 90 days,
Mhm.
or they don't have a good way of tracking when someone hits 90 days, they'll often give that time too early.
Okay.
So they're given sick time when they really haven't earned the sick time.
Mhm.
And so that can obviously be a problem because you're giving away free time that someone's
Absolutely.
not earned.
Yeah.
And then with vacation time, what we often see is just the person processing payroll isn't verifying that when someone requests 3 days off, they have 3 days to take. Very simple, but you're giving away free time if they
Right.
don't have that time.
Right.
Or maybe you have exempt employees. And so you feel like, oh, my payroll is easy. I have exempt employees. They're on salary. It's the same all the time.
Mhm.
But if you only give them 5 days off a year and you're not really tracking how many days they're not there, you might actually be giving them 10 days off a year if you're not
Absolutely.
tracking it.
Yeah.
So again, it comes down to good tracking.
Mhm.
And a lot of times we see people who are processing who don't know the policies and they're not tracking.
And these are things that literally come up like today. I mean, we've had
Sure.
clients that we're talking to right now with all exempt staff, and they're realizing that they're not in control of that time off.
But
So it's a
yeah,
big
not
deal.
at all.
And it also affects employers who have a high turnover of employees.
Yes.
Mhm.
So if they're
For sure.
leaving within 30 or 60 days and
Mhm.
you're giving them sick time.
Right.
That's money out the door
Exactly.
for employees that aren't going to be long term at all. So we can't emphasize enough how crucial it is to make sure someone processing your payroll
Yes.
has this kind of OCD quality.
Yeah, that's right. That's a
little
good,
bit.
yes,
A little
that's
bit,
the
yeah.
type.
That's
a
plus
good
to have an
characteristic.
OCD characteristic
absolutely.
for running and processing payroll.
That's the person
They
you
have
want
to
on
have
it.
attention. They have to have a keen attention to detail.
Mhm.
Mhm.
and skilled in adjusting payroll records as needed. Often when we start working with a client, we do audits of the payroll system, and we find many, many surprises. One of them involves processing benefits, and particularly insurance benefits. Depending on a company's benefit structure, certain employees will have to contribute to their insurance premium. So knowing that the deductions are in a proper category of being pre-tax versus post-tax, that's important. And knowing how much to take, because if that employee has dependent coverage and the benefit indicates that the company only pays for employee only,
Right.
and the employee is responsible for their dependents at 100%, you have to make sure it's coming from their pocket and not the employer's pocket.
Yeah.
Also, insurance premiums. Typically, for policies, they're billed on a monthly basis.
Right.
But payroll, as we learned from the trivia, most payrolls are processed on a biweekly schedule. Yes. So you would have to figure out and calculate the proper amount to fit that schedule, being whether it's weekly, biweekly, or monthly. And not making these adjustments may seem minimal for some people, but it does add up when
There's no question.
when it goes across several employees or hundreds over a period of time.
You already look at it annually.
Right.
So another adjustment when you're talking about insurance that I think really gets sort of overlooked as a payroll issue is every year when you go through open enrollment, those premiums go up basically every year. And it's a small adjustment, but it is an adjustment. You're going to, as the employer, your bill is going to go up. You need to start collecting more from them.
Right.
But the challenge, as Liz mentioned, is often you're on a payroll schedule that doesn't match up to a month. And also maybe that premium starts on April 1st, but your pay period is split over a little bit of March and a little bit of April.
Exactly.
So you're going to take a little bit from that old premium amount, a percentage, and then a percentage of the new premium amount. And again, the difference is really small, but you stretch that over 50, 100 employees, you've not collected all of the premium that you are going to have to pay as the employer. So we see stuff like that quite a bit. And that really comes from the payroll person they've never thought about it before.
Plus, if you miss that proper deduction and you wait too long and you decide to take it from the employee all at once,
Oh, they don't like that.
Oh, yeah.
No, they're not
that'll
happy
be a
about that.
very unhappy employee.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. You might end up in someone's equal employment opportunity commission office at that point in time. I think that what we're ultimately saying is payroll requires minimally weekly, focus. It is just that complicated. Whenever we start working with a client, they always are really surprised by, some of the protocols that we're putting in place, and they wonder, why do we have to do all this? And then they'll inevitably be an example of why we have to do all that, or we'll figure out and do an audit and realize that there's some issues there. So I think that we should probably try to help our different employers with different demographics of employees.
Yeah.
So I'd like to first talk to our exempt employers or any employer that has a salary or an exempt employee. This information is for you. So first thing that we have to pay attention to is if you do provide bonuses, being sure to track those, being sure to have some sort of process to pay those out. A lot of times you'll have management teams that are creating those, are assessing the staff and determining whether bonuses are going to be given out. Be sure to properly transfer that information to your payroll team, to whoever's the administrator of payroll, and ensure that they know what that amount is and how it's going to be paid out. That's a big deal. I think also there are annual reviews, there's rate changes that happen to all of our employees, ensuring that those changes happen in whatever time frame is supposed to happen. Is anything retroactive? When that rate change happens, being sure that it's done on time and when it's supposed to happen, actually. I think the other thing, the third one for our exempt demographic of employees is commission or production. We have several clients that, their employees, we have a company that pays out commission actually every payroll. And so knowing how that's often, to your point, Megan, it's assessed monthly, it's paid out every payroll, and ensuring that it's paid correctly to the employees is really important as well. Having that system in place to track it is important.
For employers with non-exempt or hourly employees, there are two things to look out for. Number one, change in employment status. This is often overlooked and not been communicated to the person who processed payroll. You have to ask yourself, is there anyone who have reduced hours and are no longer considered full-time and they're part-time? If that's the case, then do they lose out on some PTO?
Yes.
Or Are they not eligible for benefits anymore?
Right.
Those are the items and questions that you have to ask yourself. And number two, how are you tracking employee hours? Do you have a time tracking system? This person who does your payroll must have a strong command on overtime laws, and they should be able to answer time card questions.
Listen, the old school time clock does work. But what's so great about some of these new time tracking tools is it does all the calculation for you, literally transfers everything into your payroll. So if you are using an old school clock, consider upgrading to a virtual time clock. It will definitely save you a lot of time. I think there's also, just to all employers, just this kind of basic recommendations that we think for sound payroll, this is what you need to do. So first and foremost, we do think that even depending on what size you are, hiring a payroll administrator is ideal.
That's not your accountant, probably.
That is, yeah. I think that you want someone that is paying attention on a daily, weekly basis to ensure that they understand what's happening in your business and that they know how to properly, those changes that are happening from week to week, that they're making sure that those changes are implemented in your payroll. So I think that's
whoever that person
person is.
It could be your accountant if they want to do that.
And
but a lot of times,
we heart CPAs. I mean,
we do. Absolutely.
We work with CPAs all the time.
That's true.
It's just that idea that it's someone who is really close to the
business.
the group and the teams of people. That's what's really important.
Yeah.
We also recommend that whoever the administrator is, that they have a strong documentation procedure. If you have an employee that comes to you 6 months after a payroll, or typically it's a little closer, a month or two after a payroll, and they notice some change and they're concerned about it, you want to be able to go back to your notes and know exactly why it was processed, or if there was something that was different than a typical payroll, easily be able to explain that. So that's really important. You have to have an audit schedule. You have to be auditing payroll at least 4 times a year. You're definitely going to audit it during open enrollment. All the changes that happen as benefits change have to then be transferred onto payroll. And then periodically, at least once a quarter, go in there and just assess that payroll and ensure that everything is accurate there as well. What is your system for checks and balances? No matter what size the payroll team is, if you have one person that's processing it, you have to at least have one other person that's vetting the information that they've entered. We have clients who literally, Megan, you'll be the primary on it. The manager will actually be the first step, then you're the secondary, and I'm the third. There's 3 people touching this payroll before it's actually submitted, and that's important.
Yeah.
It's not about a trust. It's not about, but we're all human. We make mistakes, and we also just catch things maybe a different person didn't see or notice. And then lastly, it's that, what is your payroll strategy? And this is sort of a forward thinking, every 4th quarter for every company. What happened that year? What improvements do you want to make for the next year? Is there anything about your payroll and how it's being managed that you want to improve moving forward? So what is your total payroll strategy? And another big issue that really in our world that's coming up a lot is pay equity. It's really important to see that the people with the same job are making this, they're in that same range. So maybe they're based on experience. It might be at the higher or lower end of the range, but pay equity is becoming a really big deal, and businesses have to pay attention to that as well.
So all the examples and things we talked about today, I want to highlight, these are problems for businesses of any size. So if you're a listener out there and you're like, oh, that's things that the large company deals with. No, these are really common in many different size organizations. And so if you heard something today and you stopped and thought, I wonder how that's being managed in my company.
Right.
Or maybe you're the payroll person and you said, ooh, I am definitely not doing that.
Right.
We would love to hear from you. So here at CBR, we can come in and do an audit of your current payroll procedure, look at what you're doing. We can help train your management or you as the owner if you want to know how to do payroll more accurately, more efficiently, or if you just want to completely outsource it to us so that we do it for you. We'd be more than happy to help you out. So don't hesitate in contacting us for sure. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening today, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you so much for listening to Your Human Resource. If you need more hands-on support from our team, visit cbrhr.com and fill out our contact form. If you enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to subscribe to the show on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. We'll see you in the next episode.